Alright, so let's continue. So now we will be working on the next part where we send the user an email regarding the order that they have just placed and with a link which when clicked will confirm the order and add the entry to the Google Sheet as what we discussed earlier. And let me just actually pop open the diagram that we have prepared at the beginning. So over here we are done with this part. We are able to fetch data out of the sheet. Then we are also done with the store. Everything is working. Cart functionality, the categories like the genres, the filter thing. We are able to add or decrease quantity, all that jazz. Plus we are also able to store the user information, at least on the client side for the time being. So now we just need to work on this part where when a user places an order, then what should we do? So we are saying that we are going to send the user an email with the confirmation link, with the the confirmation link, the same thing. But before we do that, before we are even able to do that, we need to have that entry of that unconfirmed order per se at some place, so that when the user clicks on that link, we can extract the unique ID from the query parameters. I guess we can use that, and we can look up some place and find that entry and just kind of take that in note, maybe delete that entry at the same time. And after that we can we need to do the other things like add the entry to the Google Sheet, as well as receive a push notification on Slack. Was pretty passionate at that time while deciding on this thing. Anyway, we will do that. It will be pretty fun. Anyway, so the first thing that we have to do, we have to save that entry at a temporary place. And for that, as I earlier said that we may use Deta, and now I think we should use it. It's pretty simple, it's pretty straightforward, and it's free. So why not? I kind of love free services, especially like the ones like this, where this thing maybe I don't know, there are services out there which provide similar things, but it is kind of unique that you can spin up your Python or Node.js application for free. That's great. Anyway, so I'm pretty sure that there are services out there, but still this one seems to be pretty cool. So anyway, so they provide micro, which as I said is this thing, and they also provide drive, which you can use to upload to kind of store media files. But the one and the last which they provide is base, the one like the NoSQL database, and we will be using this particular one. So let's do that. Firstly, you have to visit this URL data.sh, create a new account, log in, and you should be seeing something like this. And if it's the first time that you created an account, then you should also see the default project key. You don't need to use the same thing. You always have the option to create more keys by going to settings and creating a new key, and we will do that. Now lastly, you have to also install the Deta package. Over here it also says Express, but we don't need that for our case, as we are already using NextJS and we can just make use of the environment that we have. Anyway, so just install this package, for which let me just head back and open up another terminal and install this thing. All right, so yeah, it's done. And now all right, so now we need to have wait a second. Yep, so now we need to have the project key. So let's actually do that. Let's create a new key by going to the settings, and let's create key. So there it is. I'm gonna copy it to the clipboard, and we have to keep it safe because anyone can access our project by using this. So making sure that we keep it safe, the safest place would be the env file, as we are not committing it. Pretty obvious, like these, the env file. Well, actually let's explicitly set it to be of env. over here. Anyway, so now in the env file, let's we can name it as data project key to be of this thing. And now let's create the API endpoint. So I believe in this, for this application, we need to create 2 endpoints. Let's actually take a look at the diagram. So we need to create 2 endpoint. One would be for the confirm order, but we also need one for adding a new order, as in like for adding a new unconfirmed order. The reason is that right now we have everything on the front end, so we need to call an endpoint and send this data off to that. We cannot directly connect to data and use it on the front end, obviously, because it, like, even if we are able to do that, it's gonna expose the key, which we don't want to do. So for that, let's actually create a new API endpoint, and for that, within the pages directory, let's create a new folder with the name of API and a new function called new order. So from the API file, we have to export default the handler function. So export default, I'm going to use async so that I can use await async, and let's name it as new order. The first argument is the request object, the other one is response. And now we can just, for the time being, let's return back a text using res.send, the send method, and let's send back it's working as a text. So now if we take a look, let's try visiting this thing, API new order, and voila, it's working. So that's great. So let's first try to add something to the database. So for that, we first need to import data class, and we need to configure it, the data instance. So let's get over here and right at the top. And now what we need to do is we need to configure, actually I received a call. Anyway, so now what we need to do is we need to configure the data project, for which we need to call this class with the project key that we added in the env file over here. So let's actually do that. So we got data, let's call data and process dot env dot the project key in such a way. And because we added the environment variable, we also have to restart the NextJS server. So let me just do that real quick. Make sure to do that, otherwise it won't pick up the project key. All right, so now what we need to do, we have the data instance on which we can use the resources or the services that it provides. In this case, it's going to be the base. So over here, let's do that. Let's instantiate the DB, and it's going to be data.base, and let's give it a name. So because this thing will be called from the client side, so from this function, we will be doing 2 things. The first one would be adding a new entry to the temporary database, and the other one would be sending email to the customer, right? So these are the things that we will be doing. So for the database, I think we should call it as unconfirmed orders, as that's what it is. Until they confirm it by clicking on the link, they are unconfirmed in a way. Unconfirmed orders. And for the time being, let's just add something to the database just to see whether this thing is working, and for which we can use, well, actually we can take a look right over here. The DB instance that we have, it has a bunch of different methods, the methods that you can use on the database. In this particular case, we will be using put which is used to add something to the database. And let's add like an object. Let's how about something, well actually doesn't matter. So let's do name to be of my name and channel to be of Desi codes. Well actually instead of this, let's do message, please subscribe. And let's await this thing. Let's do it in this way, and let's take it for a spin. And is there something wrong? Obviously forgot the comma. And now if we take a look, let's see. So now if I refresh, it's gonna return back the same thing, but the entry should be added. I think I have to refresh. Let's see. And there it is. So that's perfect. Entry has been added. So we will be adding the entry in such a way when a user places a new order, and we are going to query through the same database that we have, the unconfirmed one, when they visit the different endpoint for confirming the order, which would be sent to their email. So I hope you are enjoying it as much as I am, and you are kind of in loop with the entire thing, what we are doing and what we are about to do, as that's the goal of this entire series. So let's just continue with the same thing. In the next one, we will be working on adding the actual order to this database. So let's do that in the next one. Thank you.